promise I'm not contagious anymore. I'm still just coughing.
Oh, yeah, no, that's been going around.
Oh, I know. It's like a never-ending hack. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Think you're ready to
All
go
right.
here?
We will call the Admin and Finance meeting to order for Monday, April 13th. Thank you all for being here. Approve the March 23rd minutes. Jeremy just sent this over this morning.
Yep.
So we're good.
Same as the draft, just minus the next steps, which doesn't do very well.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will second. All those in favor, aye.
Yay.
My phone. That's not going to do me much good.
Technology's failing everybody today.
I know. Well, I have my hotspot on my phone. Hey, Tom.
Good morning.
Okay. Red Lodge Rural Fire Department annexation of City of Red Lodge up for discussion tonight. Resolution to initiate petition. And the petition, I think they were both in the packet.
They are both in the packet, and I had kind of worked on some additional whereases, and am looking forward to having this conversation as a group, because my 2 cents, this is literally the most important thing we've talked about and will talk about over the last in the next 2 years. This is significant, so let's get it right and let's make it happen.
So, any comments from you guys?
I did look through it.
Okay.
But by way of introduction, this is a resolution that Tom Coons, our fire chief, put together, and I noticed that he has come in. There are a couple of things that it doesn't address, in my mind, particularly thinking of the comments that we've had as a council about what was important to get out there.
Right.
So some additional whereases that I had just kind of jotted down to get the brain juices flowing is whereas there's been a 22.69 loss in purchasing power since 2000, whereas the current budget is not sustainable without cutting essential city services, whereas the value of a mill can change drastically from year to year, and therefore it's not a practical approach to calculating contractual agreements, whereas eliminating the need to pay for fire from property taxes will allow the city to hire a city administrator and allow for an additional police officer to address the growing needs of Red Lodge as a growing resort community. So those were kind of the ones that I had written down based on conversations on this group.
Yeah.
And then the one thing that we will need to address or figure out how to address and particularly if we want to enroll our volunteer fire department in help in gaining the signatures, is that while this is a cut to what city residents will be paying for fire, so right now they're paying 28 mils, and in the new world, Tom, help me, 21, 22? 22. So about 22 mils. So the residents of Red Lodge will be paying 6 mils less for fire protection if all we do is just eliminate it outright. What that also means is that there's a 6 mil cut in the budget that the fire department has for the percentage of the area that represents the city. And so that is not currently addressed in here. Whether it needs to be addressed in here, we need to figure out how to address it. Like I said, if we want to enlist them in helping get our signatures and get this passed, that's something we're going to have to figure out how to address.
I don't know that it needs to, when we go around with the petition, are we taking the resolution with us? I guess are you sending that resolution out with the petition?
That's this council's decision. I think if we wanted to, but at the very least, I think we need to have a one page that kind of summarizes it.
Absolutely. I just didn't know how much we wanted to put into the actual resolution versus our public outreach, like those things listed out.
I think it wouldn't hurt to, load up the whereases with everything that would go on such a sheet.
Okay.
Yeah, because especially, again, we always talk about how 20 years from now, we want it to be pretty obvious why those decisions were made.
Sure.
And, yep. And I think a lot of folks, when this comes about, they will do their homework and find that whereas, and I think that's
Hopefully.
important. Yeah. Fingers crossed. Well, no, there's gonna be a select 2% that will do that.
Someone will do their research.
Yep.
Okay, I'm good with that then.
We're talking about a 22% increase, or excuse me, 22 mil, a 22 mil increase to taxpayers within the city of Red Lodge, even though that's not city collecting that is basically, it's a 22 mil increase to property taxes.
Right.
So yeah, people are gonna do homework and wanna ask questions, and we need to have the answers prepared ahead of time.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll shut up. That was just my thoughts that I did
No,
kind of
thank
over the
you.
weekend when I got the resolution, so.
Can I make a comment there?
Of course.
I think that piece is that the narrative is, you're gonna be cutting what the city pays for fire protection, and you're gonna be increasing city taxes.
Right.
So that just has to be a very clear piece,
Yeah,
and I think that is gonna be challenging for the fire department. We've already cut 2 full-time positions in the last 2 years, and so, trying to, that funding reduction is going to result in lower fire protection. And so, you're gonna increase taxes, cut fire protection, and cut fire protection services. So we just have to be, without some method, and I think there is a method, to offset that, that's gonna make it, I think it's gonna make it challenging to pass it.
And so the 6 mil difference is about $66,000, is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So collectively, City of Red Lodge will be paying $66,000 less, absent some other adjustment mechanism,
Mhm.
and
And
the fire will be getting 66. Now, one of the things that is interesting,
But no, the city will be paying, depending on where you time this, right?
the city residents is what I
The
meant
city
to say.
residents will actually be paying $300,000. Well, the city, as a government, will be paying $300,000 less, $295 this year.
Right.
My guess is closer to $340, $350 by the time you hit next budget year.
Right.
And then, but then the fire district will be getting $66,000.
Yeah. Which ultimately, like I said, if we say the residents as opposed to the city, it's that $66,000. Now, interestingly enough, we are allowed, per the voters, we are allowed to help pay our fire obligation. Let me rephrase that. We are allowed to utilize resort tax dollars
Mhm.
to help pay for fire protection, which heretofore we have not done.
Just for
And-
capital though, right?
Yeah, and safe, and the reason is because there has to be an assurance that is used for capital. And that will probably, Tom, did we decide that would be best served at least if there was a new contract between, even if we keep it with the city, we need to modify the contract that allows that to be resort tax, to accept resort tax, because you guys had an accounting problem of needing to track it separately to make sure it was capital.
Yeah.
Am I, go ahead and rephrase.
Yeah, maybe misunderstanding. My suggestion is that we would adjust the agreement between the city and the rural district, in addition to lowering, so what my suggestion is that, which this isn't a conversation with the mayor, which is that we readjust the agreement with the city, which would lower what the city pays out of the general fund to $240, which is approximately that 22 mils, so those things will line up, and then supplement it with resort tax. At about, I have two pieces there. My fire calculation runs at about 12%. My resort tax chair position says it probably should be about 10, but somewhere between.
And in this meeting, that's the side we'll rely on, so.
Yeah, it is. but somewhere between 10 and 12%. So then that balances that once that goes out and all that. I think the thing that's important to understand is that the fire department is very capital heavy in terms of, and getting more so. So the city currently has owns one fire truck that was purchased 22 years ago. To replace that truck is $1 million. To provide fire protection to the city under the terms of Verisk, which used to be ISO, the city needs to have 3 total fire engines.
And that's to maintain our current rating?
That's to maintain your current rating. You need 3 engines plus what we call a rescue truck. So you need 3 engines and a rescue truck in order to do it. So it's very, and because, while we're a combination fire department, so we have staff, the bulk of what we need in order to provide adequate city fire protection really is capital more than people. But I mean, it's people. We need the people. We are fortunate in that we are able to manage that very efficiently because almost all our people are volunteers. So it doesn't cost us much to do that. But there's a cost there. I mean, to put a volunteer in just basic, to bring on a volunteer is somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000 by the time we get them their stuff. So it's not, I've said this for a long time, volunteers are cheap, they're not free, right? So there's still a cost to having a volunteer workforce. So it's not insignificant. So that's where the challenge comes from the city. And we, just like the city, the fire district is seeing the same kinds of economic pressures that the city. We're, as a whole, our budget, the combined budget has the same kind of tax limitations that the city has. But we are seeing significantly more than consumer price index increases in inflation in the things that we have to do. So, the fire truck that the city purchased for $240,000 20 years ago costs $1 million today. So that's a big change. For our paid staff, one of our biggest, we're seeing the same kinds of pieces of health insurance, and workers' comp insurance and some of those kinds of things. And then our actual general liability insurance is going up, exponentially more than any of those other indexes would maybe indicate. And so that's why we've had to cut positions. And it's not easy. And one of the things that we're struggling right now is we have a volunteer coordinator who's been operating the last 4 years on a grant, and that grant did not get renewed. And so we're trying to figure out if we can continue to keep that position or lose that position. And that'll be a big impact to us if we lose that position. I don't want you, I want you to understand where we are. We have the same issues that the city has, and we have had to make hard decisions in changing. We've done, the current reductions were done through attrition, Tim Ryan retiring, and John Trapp leaving, but that's a big impact to operationally to what we do.
Oh gosh, I have something and I lost it. Something specifically in terms of with that fire reduction, if this goes through, would that also in turn have a reduction in the ISO, or what's the new language?
It's called Verisk. They just bought ISO. What we named, I'm not sure exactly how that works, but everyone still calls it ISO rating.
ISO.
So there's not a one-to-one relationship there. Okay, and the reason there's not a one-to-one relationship is that process is slow
Right.
We actually are in the process of getting reactivated right now. And so depending on when that completes, might really answer that question. We get it completed before we see, reductions, then maybe not as much. But we've also done some things that will help our ISO rating, in terms of building our training center and, the way we do training and some other, pieces, the number of our volunteers. Those things will help us as well.
Okay.
So I don't like to say, you know, if we don't do this, our ISO rating's gonna drop, and, but, you know, I mean, that happened, it did happen in West Yellowstone. West Yellowstone, this has been 15 years ago, maybe more at this point, but they cut their fire protection services, and they ended up going to a 10 for fire protection.
Oh, God.
And
Everybody paid for it, they paid for it in their insurance rates rather than on their
that's
taxes.
exactly.
That's where the.
What's happening now is that, in the insurance industry, is they're going with the special fire hazard areas too. It's not just your ISO rating. It's very hard right now for a lot of carriers. They're just a big no on anything south of town. You know, and there's some carriers, for commercial buildings and stuff like that, where they're just pulling out of the market because they don't want to be so highly concentrated on the big, more expensive buildings in town as well. So, but I don't know if you know how our fire department actually helps with that, our rural fire department, because a lot of that's fuel mitigation and
It
things
does,
like that.
so we help significantly with that, and so because we do fuel mitigation and we run a fuel mitigation crew, now that's, you know, obviously we account for that separately, but we do, you know, we work very hard to keep our, to be able to reduce wildland fire risk, which is also a risk to the city. I mean, you know, there are multiple cases, and, you know, I think a lot of times, folks generally think we have fire protection as a community to protect a house from catching on fire. It's actually not the origins of fire protection. Most fire departments were formed throughout this country because entire communities burned down.
Right.
And
All old lady Leary's fault.
yes, honestly, that is an accurate statement. And the goal in fire protection and why our fire department formed 125 years ago was to protect the community as a whole, not with the anticipation that if someone's house caught on fire, that you would put out their fire and save babies. That really what you were trying to do is make sure that that fire didn't result in the entire community burning down. And we went through a time where, you know, as a country, we didn't see a lot of that, but we have a lot more recently. You know, in places that you wouldn't think, like LA.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we've seen it in Montana on a couple of occasions where entire communities have burnt, you know, fires have burned from communities. And those fires.
Downtown Gardner.
Yeah, what's that?
You went
Oh, yeah, you can
downtown
look
Gardner.
at the downtown Gardner issue. I mean, that's, but, you know, again, that's.
Very
that's-
similar to
It's
us.
very similar, yeah. And we saw it here. I mean, it wasn't as big, but we saw it here when the Montana Bank fire. I mean, we actually lost 3 buildings in that Montana Bank fire. And so, you know, what I was going to say is that sometimes I think people think that we're only susceptible to a wildland fire coming and doing that, but a house catching on fire and not being able to put it out quickly enough can result in the next house catching on fire. And then if that happens on the right day, at the right time, in the right conditions, it can result in significant losses. And so,
Especially with this year.
especially in a dry year. So you know, and you know, we have a very good fire department. I mean, just we provide very good services, and we do it at a cost that is extremely low compared to industry standards. And so we just want to not make sure we don't lose that. And part of the way you lose it is by not investing in capital. So, bring this conversation around a little bit. It's why when I do a budget for the fire department, I'm consistently worried about capital. Because if you're behind in everything, it's really hard to make it up. And so, we run our three engines that I talked about what the city needs. We have, we have one that we purchased in 2015. That we have the one the city owns, which was purchased in 2004. And I might have to look at my sheet, but the other one is a 1996. And so, at some point, you can't use a 40-year-old fire truck. And when you look at that fire truck, you're not going to, no one's going to be like, oh my God, that's old. And I actually have told this story a little bit. When I first started working here in 1992, we had a red 3-seat fire truck purchased by built by Fort Howe Fire Apparatus, or Howe Fire Apparatus. And it was a 1970, I believe it was 1972 fire truck. When I started in 92, it was considered old. It looked old, it felt old. It was not as old
I know.
as the city's truck is today.
It's only 20 years old.
Yeah,
This one's 30.
so it's 20 years old. So we are getting to the point, but our system is pushing to 30 to 40-year-old fire trucks. It's not easy when you're trying, and it gets expensive to maintain them, and we're seeing that the maintenance on them goes up significantly when they start getting 20, 25, 30 years old.
So capital can be made up out of resort tax without
That's correct.
modification, basically.
Yeah.
And is the fire district as a whole looking at any kind of mill increase to make up for what
I
the city is?
think that's going to happen, and that is
Sometime.
where annexation does help, is because then what happens is that everybody votes equally on that.
Yeah.
And so, and it adjusts equally, so.
Oh, that's just the ones, and I added one more while you guys were talking too, but just so that everybody had hard copies of my thoughts.
Do you want this? Sorry, yes.
No, I just missed.
Oh, well then, you're gonna look at Jody. She's in charge of this meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, go
So
ahead.
that's on time. So as a taxpayer, when you approach me with this petition, how are you going to explain to me the benefit of this annexation? What is it going to mean to me?
There's a couple different things. Basically, it will free up money in the general fund so that we can hire an additional police officer and that we can hire a city administrator, which we cannot do right now. And as far as Dave's argument is also that the city residents will be paying the same amount as the county residents for fire protection,
So
basically.
financially, it's not really make any difference to me. I mean, I'm just.
Yeah, no, your
will.
taxes
It'll be-
will go up.
They're going up regardless.
No, but they would go up 22 mils with this petition.
Absent this, I would say your taxes won't go up, your services will go down.
Sure, I
And
hear
so-
that.
So,
Yes, so,
So basically, we have a money problem, we need more money. Eventually, we're gonna have to find a way to get that from the taxpayers. Whether that means city taxes go up and we continue to do the operations that we have been doing, or we do an annexation where the fire department manifests their own destiny in terms of the funding. And then this would, because end of the day, we do need more money at a city level. Fire department needs to maintain the money that they are getting currently. And if they want to continue the services that we have, otherwise we're gonna have to start cutting city services, or they're gonna have to start cutting fire services. We need more money, and we have to ask the city for it in one way or another, and we think the smartest way to do it is to have the fire department manage their money and the city manage city services.
Right.
That makes sense.
And I think that a couple of questions came up for me. In selling this, I don't think your approach that you just presented will sell it.
okay.
But, I mean, it'll actually create resistance. One of the questions,
else?
there's a sample petition here which has all the Marriott S's on it,
Yep.
but, what's the value of a mill? And what will it cost a homeowner? I mean, 100,000, 300,000, so we can do the math and say,
Right.
my house is valued at this, so I'm gonna be paying this. So you have to present the taxpayer with what's
Yeah.
it gonna cost,
Yes,
okay?
I think that's all they, yeah.
yeah, that was
Because that-
definitely a
that's gonna
must,
be the
that's
first
definitely a
question.
must, yeah.
What's it gonna cost me? So I think that's important to have that on your petition. Just like any mill levy that goes through,
Right.
says this is how much it's gonna cost you for X number of dollars and stuff. I don't know if Tom's got any idea of what that may be.
Jeremy.
It's getting more challenging, but, you know, you're probably in the $100 and something range.
Yeah, it's a little less than.
Right now, if you were to look at your
$100
taxes,
per,
Year,
if you were to look at your taxes last year of what you paid for the ambulance district, that's the dollar amount. That's the closest representation we could do.
well.
But unfortunately, we can't describe it as mills because that changes
Right.
drastically.
But you need to be able to present that number to whoever you're trying to get
Oh,
a signature from.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I know, that's all
But-
it is.
And one of the things that's gonna change, this year is that the value, what a mill is on a home that is for a full-time resident versus somebody who's not a resident,
That's what I was
is
gonna say.
going to be very
Right.
different, you know, so that's where that becomes tricky too. We're gonna see, you know, this is just me pontificating, so take it with a grain of salt. But I believe that we are gonna see the value of the mill value go up somewhere
The value
around,
of a mill.
a value of a mill go up somewhere around 30% when we pull in all, because what happens is on all the second homes, their taxes essentially are gonna double. And so, and their taxable value is gonna double, which that means that's gonna then on the full-time residents, that's going to drop there. So residential properties dropped by about 15%, this last year. And so my guess is as we move, we switched everything to commercial. We moved it to commercial last year. So my residential properties dropped by about 15%. My commercial property, I don't know if you saw this, my commercial properties went up by about 30%. And so, but now we're gonna bring on the second homeowner piece. And so that's going to then drop both the residential full-time resident and the commercial
We'll both drop.
will both drop.
So in terms of,
We're in confusing times.
We are in confusing times, yeah.
The good news is, we are better, I would argue that we are better equipped than any municipality in Montana. We've got a fire chief here, we have a guy who works for the state tax division here, and we have an insurance agent. We have all of the different angles. We have the right brains to attack this.
So I think I'm in favor of it. So, but I
If
think.
you weren't,
have-
what would we have to tell you to get you to
Well,
be in
What it's
favor
gonna
of?
cost
In
them,
order
what it's gonna
to-
get.
To communicate change to people, you need to be able to explain to them how it's going to affect them. Tell them you're gonna hire a city administrator and another police officer, and shut it down right there.
You think
Boom,
so?
it's done. You need to explain what's happening with the fire department. You need to explain why it's good for the taxpayer to either pay, you know, the potential is that they're gonna pay upfront in the fire district, or they're gonna pay in their fire insurance, because as our fire department ability goes down, our fire insurance is going to go up. That's what I'm hearing here. That's a more convincing argument than the other approach. Another question I have is, the rural fire department, or the fire district, you want to call it, say the fire district we're trying to annex into, do they have the 3 engines that we need for the city?
Yeah.
So now it's just a matter of maintaining engines that are functional. They don't have outdated equipment. You can't buy parts for them anymore. I mean, as things get older, technology moves on and they quit manufacturing parts.
Yep.
I think included in this is, would be good to have a statement saying that we're explaining what effect this is going to have on the fire department's ability to protect it. Is this gonna create a negative, a positive, or is it gonna have an effect on essentially their budget?
Without an
And what if-
adjustment, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where that's why I think personally, I believe we lead with the agreement, because that makes an adjustment to how we talk about this, because then the answer to that question would be no. If we lead with the agreement,
Right.
and we have we lower the mill, we lower what the city's paying, and in the agreement, the draft agreement that I'll email it to you, then what would happen is, if this doesn't pass, then what the city pays for fire protection would be tied to the same things, the 1510-420, I got that right, basically the law that adjusts the mills for the city, then what the city pays the district would adjust with that. So if that goes up or down, it would adjust with that and not be tied to mills.
Right.
And then the resort tax would just be a solid percentage, easy to calculate. And then with the annexation, it would go right over.
Do you see the potential that we can replace that agreement for prior to this year's budget year, which means we've got 3 or 4 months? Because I would rather get that done so that I know we're covered for this year's budget. And
I
then
think it's gonna
say,
accelerate this year.
here's how we fix it long term.
Yeah, I mean, I really think if we don't, the city's gonna, I'm gonna look out for the city interest on this one. I think if we don't get that adjusted and we get the new mill values, and again, I don't know what the mill value, I don't know that anybody knows what the mill values are unless you've got an insight into it unless we can figure out what the value of all these second homes are and how that's gonna affect mill values and all that kind of stuff, until the Department of Revenue comes and says, boom, here's what you got. But I think our valuation is gonna go up significantly, which is gonna lower the number of mills, which means the 28 mills is gonna be a higher percentage of the mills.
And we did do the graph, and Jeremy, correct me, but I want to say, we went from 2000 to now, we went from, it was 22% of our property tax budget to it's 33% of our property tax.
Well, and that was just the post-COVID, property increase. This is a completely different thing, and it'll, to your point, second homes, we have a lot of those, so.
Like 30% of our homes in Red Lodge are second homes.
We have
Yeah.
more second homes than
So the-
statewide.
So then if you say you're gonna take the tax, and the second homes are a lot of the higher valued ones, right?
Yes.
So you're gonna double the taxable value of 30% of your homes, just take that. So, that's gonna raise
The
the
value's gonna
taxable
go
value.
up and the number of mills is gonna go down
That's right.
drastically.
That's right.
So, I would love for that to happen, because I've been pushing for that since I've been on council, to get the mills out of, the budget, paying something out of mills. So to put that at a consistent value that goes up so much every year based on whatever factor that is.
Yeah,
And
you
then
use
pay-
the
and make-
same factor that
Yeah.
adjusts the mills,
And then
that's
take
15,
some
10,
out of
420.
resort tax
Yeah.
for capital, as long as we can do that. 'Cause we tried to do that last year, and we're told that we couldn't, so.
Well, there was an accounting issue that they had pushed back on initially, and then the secondary part of that is, we haven't, because, and like I said, even when I was on council, like I said, I say this is the biggest thing in front of, this was the biggest thing in fairness when I was on council and just didn't get addressed. But this is one of those things that's been going for 26 years now, and we need to fix it.
Yeah, definitely. Chelsea, request, yes.
I'm just thinking for our one page or seller, something that we can give to people and sell the point,
Yes.
or ad, if you will. We need to know how much it's gonna cost the taxpayer,
Right.
dollar amount. Like, not.
And it varies per taxpayer, but
Do you
yeah.
think it would be sufficient on that point to have it just for the long-term people, and then with an asterisk that's like, it will be higher for second homes, or do
Yeah.
you want it broken out into both?
I mean, I think having both on there, because again, one page, we can print, give it to everybody in the universe.
I used to know it off the top of my head when it was 1.35, but now that it's point.
1.9 for a second home.
Yeah,
And it'll
So-
vary.
And it varies on the value of the home too.
I need this, again, I'm willing to put together the one page if I can get people to get me the information. I can make it pretty if people can get me
You
the
can
info,
probably calculate it. It's gonna be, what I'm saying, trying to say is, it's gonna be way easier to calculate this after August than it is today, because anything we calculate today is going to be wrong.
So realistically, I need a wrong number then.
Okay,
Because-
that is calculable, I can calculate that.
Yeah,
for you.
like, and we can even,
Calculator wrong
again,
number.
we'll have an asterisk that
I can
says,
tell you
like,
on what it would have been this last tax year.
perfect, boom, that's great,
That's
that's
easy.
fantastic.
And we can refer to the ambulance district, because that's right on.
Yeah,
So they can say, that way you can see what the number is for you, and the reality is, that number is actually gonna go down for permanent homeowners. That
That
value
is
is
correct,
gonna
it's
go
gonna
down.
go down.
So you can say, here's the asterisk of what it was, look at your bill last year. If you're a permanent owner, it's actually gonna be less than that.
Yep.
If it's a second homeowner, it's actually gonna go up from that. We
Perfect.
don't know until August.
Fabulous, so we'll have that, boom, that's your big header up top. Then we need a vote yes, what does that mean? For the city, what does that mean? It means that we get to open up some of our budget, we get to include these, a police officer and city administrator, which will in turn benefit the city, how? Let me,
Yeah.
thank you, I just wanna make sure we can get this out and done. We need a benefit for what the vote yes means for the fire department, what that means in terms of benefit, what that means for bad news. Then we need what that truly means for the taxpayer. So like, if you vote yes, it means your taxes are gonna go up, but your insurance stays X, like, all of that summarized, 200 characters or
I don't
less.
wanna tell people that their insurance will go down or stay the same,
Yeah.
because that's not.
Okay.
It's outside
Again,
of control.
This is why I'm asking all of,
Like,
they
but
did a great job just,
mentioning the
Dave
impact.
just did a great
It is. If our fire services go down, our insurance rates will, they absolutely will go up, put it that way.
So we can avoid them going up because our coverage goes down.
Right.
You can raise that.
Yes, sorry,
It
go
doesn't
ahead.
matter. It doesn't matter. Like,
Go
it
ahead, I'm
doesn't.
sorry,
Okay.
go ahead, sorry.
So a vote no, what that means for the city, what that means for the fire department, what that means for the taxpayer. And then on the back page of this saying, what the fuck is a mill? There's my one today.
You're one
You're creating more than one page though to explain what.
Right.
That's what I was gonna say, like,
But again, how can we summarize this into a one piece of paper to where we have 200 characters or less, so we're not having a 1 hour conversation trying to explain this?
I know, and I don't even know if I would say what a mill is, I would just say this is what it would be,
Right.
what it would cost you, because people,
Yeah.
that's,
And again, I think realistically,
They vote on
I'm sure we can ask ChatGPT to come up with a general understanding of how a mill works that we can put on the back page of this, so when we
if they
have,
want to read it,
when
they
we
can.
refer to a mill, they can be like, oh, okay, because again, it is,
They voted on enough mill levies to know.
but no, they don't, and like, I don't, like.
No, you don't know what a mill is, but you know how it affects your tax
Mills are so
bill.
meaningless that they are no
Well-
longer used when asking for raises in Montana. They have eliminated it and said you now have to ask for dollars. You don't get to ask for mills anymore, because mill isn't a mill, isn't a mill.
so one thing we could do is talk of it just in percentages. So the
Yeah.
city's mills total are 16%-ish of your total mills just living as a person within the city Red Lodge. Everything else is school and everything like that. So, and then 22 of that 92 mills or whatever is, anyway, if you take those both percentages, it's like, we're looking at an increase of 3.8%. So
of their
take what your
taxes.
tax bill was, 3.8% of that is gonna be your increase, which is like $75 for a median house.
So, is there a way we can get together these bits of information, put them on a one page? Because if you guys can get me the stats, I can make it pretty.
Okay.
Because that's our skill sets here. We have insurance, we have taxes, we have fire, we have mayor, we have budget. Yeah, so I have pretty graphic design skills. So let's give me
The page that I have up on the screen, there's one page that talks about what's happened over the last, since 2000. I realize that's small, I don't know if I can get that.
Very, very small. Jody?
Yes,
I have a
sorry.
suggestion for your agenda that'll give Chelsea time to really pound out her part of this. You need to move the, saying to the fire department now, you need to move that to the front of your agenda.
Yes,
Get that agreement done before this next tax year, budget
Yes.
year, while you're preparing to present this later in the year. Does that make sense?
yes.
But I thought we had to get this presented sooner than later.
We do.
So it's
We-
all
we-
in concert.
agreement.
It's not one over the other, it's all at the same time.
It is, but we do need to,
Not that you can't do
to Rod's point, we need to move that to the top of the, because our budget's coming up here sooner rather than
Which
later.
is why I asked Tom if we can get it in place for this year's budget.
I think
That-
easily,
that gets-
easily, I mean, I think that's, yeah, I think.
Is that something council has to vote on, or is that, do we
Yeah,
vote on that?
it's a new agreement, so.
Okay. So we will leave that to you two to work out those details, and
We
Bring it
can
to us.
get it, we can get a draft of that, can we say in 2 weeks, Tom?
I have it to you today, I got it here.
Okay, so we'll have a draft of that in 2 weeks for council to look at
Okay.
and have a conversation on. And by the way, I think we're both working on these simultaneously, but that takes care of this year's budget, which is what our deadline was.
and then putting on our resort tax, is that going to be an issue in our resort tax budget? There seems to be a lot of asks.
There's that question, because the answer is no, I get to make the budget. I take input from resort tax committee.
You do, I understand that, but we also have a lot of things that are.
I think the answer, of course, is yes, it will impact the resort tax budget, but can we make it work? Yes.
Okay.
That's the answer.
And our meeting for resort tax is next week.
Yes. So we can throw that in as a draft,
Okay.
throw that in.
And council ultimately approves that, so like I said, I will
No,
present.
I understand that, but I mean, I do, the importance of our resort tax committee, obviously,
Yeah.
is to
Yeah, we
make
have-
sure the people's voices are heard on how it's spent, too. So,
And we can we'll have survey results and stuff, so we can.
okay. Perfect, okay. Are we, good with this for now? So we can move on really quick to the rest of the agenda?
Because the next one is also up for discussion
Yes,
tonight.
I know,
Thank
that's
you,
why I'm
Tom.
like,
Yep,
thank
thanks.
you. Oh, okay, transfer of FAA entitlements up for discussion tonight,
I can give a short summary.
please, because I.
So the answer is, while we had a master study plan going on at the airport, you will recall,
Yes,
was going on for several years. Ultimately, the FAA came back and said, we can't tell you to shorten your runways in the name of safety, and so we terminated and no longer have that. We didn't complete that master study because it was basically throwing bad money after bad. And so they set aside every year we were in that, $125,000. So we have $400,000 with our name on it that we cannot and will never be able to use. One of two things happens. We do nothing, and it goes back into the federal pool of money, and they allocate it to an airport. Alternative B is we specifically allocate it to a particular airport within Montana, so it stays in Montana anyway. We've been approached by two separate airports that have asked for that money. One of them was already somewhat in progress. The other one was a recent request from the gentleman who did our master study, had one he's working with who came back and said, hey, can we use it for this airport, not realizing that it was already in effect for the other. What this does, and the reason I left it in blanks, is because the airport board is basically going to say, we say give it to airport X, or we say give it to airport Y for whatever reason. But as mayor, I have to execute that. Normally, this would actually not even be something that requires a council approval, but because it says airport in it, because I'm a pilot, the safety net is I bring it in front of council, and council says, yes, sign it, so you can initiate.
so we can't use that money?
There's
Okay.
nothing, there's no conditions whatsoever that we will be able to use that money.
Okay.
So the question is, does it go to a Montana airport, or does it go to the federal fund, and then they will put it wherever they
Do we
want?
get some say on the designation just because we originally got the grant?
We have the ability to say, give it to Airport X,
Mhm.
us jointly with the county. So there,
Okay.
if the recipient is us and the county
Okay,
is the recipient, which means we both have to execute. So we both have to be in agreement about where it's
about where
going,
it's gonna go.
which is why I've said the airport board has it on their agenda. We'll let them make their decision. Steve, by the way, is on that airport.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
What were-
Yeah, another consideration is this is fairly common. to transfer funds. An airport may be, eligible for the funds, but for a given year.
Yep.
But for whatever reason,
Can't use it.
they can't go forward, and so, they will take that and give it to airport number 2, and then get it back.
So by virtue of being a recipient, you get some discretion on
Some
how.
discretion, yeah, but,
Okay.
but to Dave's point, it'll stay in Montana. And it is, my only point to bring this up is, it is common to do these transfers within the state.
And this is basically all the money they collected from extra taxes on aviation gas is what funds it all, so.
Okay. Okay, any questions on that, guys?
What are the
But it
other
doesn't
airports?
Pardon?
What are the other airports that are up for possibility?
Hamilton, Ravalli County Airport,
And Stevensville, I think.
pardon me?
Is it Stevensville is the other one?
I can't remember.
Isn't Stevensville and?
But these funds will, the engineer that worked with us and is also working with Ravalli County, Hamilton. I think this is a good place to send the money. Hamilton's ready to go, they'll take it, and they'll.
And, yeah, the ability to find an airport who's willing to take $400,000 was not difficult, they just have to be eligible. So we had 2 of them that approached us, and this is basically what we'll, theoretically in 2 weeks, we'll fill in the blank, because we'll know which airport the county and the airport board has come up with, and then council can say, yep, Dave, you can sign that.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions on that, guys? All right, Public Health and Safety Grant Application, resolution to authorize submission. We're good on that? Was that in the packet? I'm sorry.
I don't believe it was in the packet,
I
I
was
don't
like,
think we have
no.
anything yet.
Okay.
I'm not aware of anything we have for it yet.
I haven't seen it, no.
Well, we had but were we supposed to write that, or was Dennison writing it? I hadn't,
Well, even the millage ask was still up in the air the last time I heard it.
Even the one?
well, that's what we wanted to, no,
The
this
ask for
is,
the millage.
this is for the grant application to build a new police
Oh,
station.
sorry, not the
So,
safety district.
no, this is the Public Health and Safety Grant application.
Right, yep.
And
Just-
that one, I believe we can hold off on.
Okay.
Because they didn't move forward with us on that grant
They ruled us
So-
out?
for this year, but they
Oh.
highly recommended us to do it next year.
Okay,
Mainly because the fire department, they already awarded the fire department.
so they
They
didn't do
wanted
it
to
Spread it
spread
around.
the funds,
to other
and they
counties.
didn't get as much either as they did last year, but they wanted, but,
Okay,
yeah, no, they want us though to do it again next year.
okay,
We can tag that for next week.
Which was kind of my gut, if you'll recall, like, 'cause
Yeah,
this is basically them securing votes is that's how I view it as, and
right.
they're thinking we already bought Red Lodge, so.
Okay. All right.
Well,
then
I don't know if they'll
we'll-
put that in writing, but yeah.
Well, then we'll just scratch that until it comes up, that whole, number 4, until it comes
But
up
I do
next year.
believe for resort test, since we are on budget and stuff, that 50,000, so that the.
Yeah, no, that's still in there.
Can
Yeah.
still move forward with a plan, so that when we do go to apply for it next year, we have it
It's
all
already
laid
backed
out.
up.
With
Right.
the
That improves our
plan,
odds.
Building.
Yeah,
everything.
definitely. We were
Yeah.
just looking at increasing it more for a match if we got it over the 50,000.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
but we would still, I mean, yeah,
that
that's
still needs
definitely
to
still,
Stay in there, for sure.
okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, resolution to create the Main Street Committee. Let's write that. No?
You were.
Yeah.
I knew there was something that you guys had assigned to me, and I was trying to remember what it was.
I think
Guess
in
what I
fairness,
did
you
too.
volunteered and we accepted it.
Oh, hell no, I did not volunteer. If I recall, it was, Chelsea's gonna do that. Oh, okay.
No. Well, we have our Main Street meeting this Thursday.
Yeah.
So maybe we can, I can work on it with you too. It's just a bad week.
Yeah,
I'm sure it is
it's
been a
bad 3 weeks.
I know. It is tax season. That's all I've been doing is taxes, so I'm like,
Yeah.
Would you
yes.
Describe what the Main Street Committee is.
What
You want me to do that?
Yes,
I can do that part.
I'm having a hard time talking today with
Yeah,
them.
so, so the Main Street Committee is, established, or has been established, or is going to be established, I should say, for directing how we are applying for Main Street grants for the community. So we are a Main Street city, in a Main Street community. We have been since 2006, or
Well, yeah,
2016.
we were in 2006, and when we lost our designation. And then, Bill Froese and Shelly Weimer and the Community Foundation, and worked really hard to get it back in like 2015 or 16.
Yeah.
And we have that again. And it opens the main, our corridor, our designated area up to different state grants.
So we've used it for
support.
things like the Roosevelt Center, we use it for our downtown master plan, things along that nature.
Yeah.
Now the Community Foundation has requested that the city that there's more requirements, so now the city is going to actually be establishing a committee. Within that committee, there's going to be folks from the city, there's going to be folks from the Community Foundation,
The chamber,
the chamber,
business,
Business Alliance.
the Business Alliance for,
and I think we voted out TBID, they don't need to be there, but
yeah.
specifically just figuring out the best way to divvy out those grants and address those grant opportunities and share those grant opportunities with folks within the community, as well as doing all of the data tracking that's required. So there's a lot of reporting that is required from the Main Street Committee to send out to the state, just improvements to your downtown.
The program was created to help preserve main streets in Montana.
Across the country.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so would individuals be eligible for grant money then?
Mm-hmm.
Businesses.
The committee
Yep.
would, I guess I'm visualizing then the committee, kind of like the resort tax committee, receives requests.
Mhm.
And then they,
We're not in charge of giving out the money, the state does that.
Right.
But it is,
but you narrow down the.
right, we want only one solid grant application per year.
Or
from-
in period,
Yeah,
grant period.
yeah, because you have to close out that grant to apply for another one.
Yep.
We would want them to be shovel-ready projects, but it could be anything from rehabbing, a building on Main Street. It could be adding a feature downtown for tourism, anything that would add to the economic viability of downtown and keep our Main Street active and economically viable and preserving it.
Okay.
I think there's, the state has some guidelines of what, like redoing what the city's project for Pride Park, to redo all of that stuff would have been a great grant application, but we didn't have our stuff together in order to apply for that. But we may next year add on to it, like putting a mural up on the wall. Most of the grants are under $50,000, $55,000, so they're smaller grants, but they're supposed to help.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we'll continue working on that. So that maybe, we can have it up for discussion at our next meeting so that we can get that done.
Yeah.
So we can, basically, they just want us to formalize the board and make it part of the city. The first time we had the Main Street program, it was under the Red Lodge Area Economic Development Corporation. And that is no longer a group. Here we are. Okay, we are pretty much out of time. The deadline for the Public Health and Safety Mill Levy resolution is August 10th. Most of that is all done. I think it's just a matter of determining the number of mills that would be asked on that, if it comes down to that. And I know that's not your number one priority at this time, but next time, I'd like to have a further discussion on how much we would actually ask on that, because we're kind of out of time right now, if everyone's okay with that.
And those dynamics change if we get a new contract with the fire department
Right.
that councils, because like I said, that's one of my concerns is we have multiple problems, that we're paying more and it's mill-based, and hopefully we can eliminate both of those going forward.
Perfect. Any public comment from the floor? No? Anyone online that would like to make a public comment?
Having breakfast.
I see no hands.
Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you so much.